So, we've spoken about a lot of things over the last few days, from climate to materiality, vernacular design, physical health, communities. There is a lot, and I mean, it's very interesting that when we started the symposium on day one, we were talking about mindful design. And we're on the last day of the symposium, and we're talking about well-being. And it's from products to cities. All of you, all three of you, actually, your work is across diverse typologies. Alan, from homes to cities, your work is completely different, and yet there are common threads. Sarika, your work is institutional, cultural, retail as well, and all of it is driven by your approach to culture, right? And your love for history. Amit, same. From homes to retail to hospitality, everything, all your projects are actually for people. And when we talk about people, well-being is the most important thing. So what we thought was, in this panel, why don't all of you, Alan, you first, then Sarika, and then Amit, share some of your works for the audience?
Yeah, we do a mix of work, so it's like mostly it's residential for people who can afford architects. So we're very fortunate to get work. This is something in Jodhpur, and we'll just run through it so it's easier. Our work is very contextual, so wherever we design, it's for the space, and that's something that we find very important. It's for the client, it's for the space, and it's also for the location, because that gives a lot of input. Yeah, this. You can run through faster. This is something, the early one was something in New York, and this is something in Goa that we've built around trees. The typology and the kind of house or villa or whatever that you make in Jodhpur or Goa or anywhere else would be different based on the climate. This is Switzerland. This is a chalet. And yeah, so basically we love nature and the context. So this is some of our urban work. This is a proposal for Andheri Station, where you have about 500,000 people a day or 600,000 people a day. This is opposite Shah Rukh's house at Bandstand, which we've executed. We took away a bit of the road because the road was just ultra large. And we have a bigger garden space. But the idea behind everything is that we love landscape and nature. We like the context, the space we are in. And yeah, we think that design can make a difference. Yeah, so I'm not sure if there's anything else there, but yeah, so it's kind of, it's the same. We're the same, basically. The client or the site changes. That's about it. Yeah. So
and your approach stays the same.
Yeah, the approach stays the same, because we are kind of, we all have our own talents or limitations.
Sure. Sarika?
We mostly sleep or take a break. We eat a lot or try to walk the dogs. But you just can't blame us, our office is such. We're here to work, and sometimes we do. We play FIFA or race a car. But you just can't blame us, our office is such. Our days start at 12 and nights never end, with the wind so soothing and the place so pleasing. You just can't blame us, our office is such.
We are Nirvana Films, and we love our new office. Pure production bliss, now in a new outfit.
I started with this project because, it's a studio building in Bangalore, in the heart of Bangalore city in Indiranagar, for a firm called Nirvana Films. They're a cutting-edge advertising company in the country and really have something spectacular in their portfolio in terms of the kind of films they make, very humane, very connected. And their brief to us was, we want a fuss-free space, a space that we can think out of the box from anywhere, whether it could be walking up the flight. I do get an idea. I don't need a confined space to think. And that's what we really did for them. I think this is a building which really works with the light, with the wind. It's a non-air-conditioned building. It's the 13th year of its existence. It's in Bangalore, which is fortunate to have a good weather, but we still have not added any air conditioning even today. So that's Nirvana Film. Okay, this is a building in Tirupati. It's a hospitality project. It is steeped in religious tourism. This was a client who came down to India from East Africa who wanted to put together a trail of religious tourist hotels in the country. And the first one that we went with is this site in Tirupati, and it's inspired by the 10 avatars of Vishnu. And what we did was worked with the idea of craft and worked with the idea of the Hindu temple planning, which is the Tirumala temple itself. And literally, I think it's a lot of education while you're working through these projects, because a client wants a space which is completely closed up. Now, this is a building where we're working with a context. It was in a dense urban fabric, which we knew that in the next 10 years, it would become a very, very dense housing fabric. It was at the end of this little locality and at the foothills of the Saptagiri. So if you know the landscape of Tirupati, it's basically made up of the 7 hills. And we were fortunate enough to get this site at the end of the foothills. Yeah, so that's what you see, and the aim was that we wanted to kind of separate the public spaces and the residential block. In hospitality, what is very important is it's both the well-being of the people who occupy it and the people who serve you. And it was important for the staff to get their own spaces. You needed to have a seamless circulation. We had a lot of argument. You see this complete walkway that you see here, it's almost about 65 meters, and the clients were like, we wanted to air condition it, and we were like, no, we don't need to. There's enough engagement along the way. There's water. The water is kind of located in a place that you actually get the easterly winds moving towards the west. There's enough evaporative cooling happening. And that's really the well-being that you kind of talk about in terms of how people inhabit spaces. What you see in the center is an all-day dining space, which we experimented with ferrocrete, so it's a very, very light structural system in steel. Yeah, so that's Tirupati, where we have used a lot of crafts. We've used the local crafts of the region. This is the next hotel in Bodh Gaya for the same clientele. And like in Tirupati, we actually worked with the 10 avatars of Vishnu and also worked with the crafts of the region, where Dokra was a very big one. In Bodh Gaya, we worked with the crafts of the region, which is the local potter community that we worked with. Bodh Gaya was inspired by the Buddhist stories and histories, and we were inspired by the Vajradhatu Mandala, which is one of the most important mandalas in Buddhism. And what we did over here was we locally engaged with the potter families in the region to actually create almost 1 lakh pieces of those country tiles. What they do is, if you see this section, if there are architects in the room, you'll understand what this section is doing. We are trying to insulate the entire structure by allowing for much better insulation in the space. And what you see with that roof is layers and layers of those kind of further insulated and help in the well-being of the space, so that you're not kind of incurring too much into energy and making the space passively cooled by making the envelope really strong and thermal. That's the space in the night. This is a residential building in Chennai. It is it's in the middle of an area called Boat Club. The brief given to us by the client was that Chennai is full of mosquitoes. We have too much malaria here. We do not want an air-conditioned building. We want an air-conditioned building. And again, it was this entire journey of what do you do to make sure that you allow for people to be able to live naturally with the air coming through? And what do you do to keep the mosquitoes at bay? So the whole problem solving over here was to make sure that you're able to give social spaces in a building like this. This happens at a very important juncture of a road in the Boat Club area. We were very clear that we wanted to give community spaces in a manner that staircases don't alienate people. So this is the atrium right in the center. It's these are 4 duplets. Each duplet is accessed from a particular level, while the public spaces are at the lower level, the private spaces are on the upper level, and then it kind of works like a Rubik's Cube, and it staggers. So every single apartment gets their own entry. This is the communal space where you will see the staff walking through. There's no separate fire escape staircase. This staircase happens right in the middle. It's a non-air conditioned space. It's mechanically ventilated, and you see this convection currents really what the atrium does. And the staircase really becomes a hub where you are looking for inclusivity. You see the staff, you see the homeowners who are using this space, and what joy to see spaces where you actually don't alienate people and make them inclusive. These were some strategies that we used to make sure that we are able to kind of ventilate the spaces at all given times and give the privacy to the householders. The next project is a hospital in an area called Dolvi, which is where the largest steel plant for JSW is. This was a community hospital. Again, the aim was that not to create a sterile box, but actually allow for people to nurture with nature and with art and craft. So what we were tempted to do is this site, when it was given to us, was a completely barren, slag-filled site. What we had to do was to really generate healing landscapes so that people are able to kind of connect with nature and help recuperate better. We used craft and we used these life-size Gond artworks so that it just gives you compassion and empathy as you are healing in the hospital. Thank you.
Yeah, so as Tanya introduced us, we work across typologies, and we always believe the well-being comes only from, or primarily from, connecting with nature, working with daylight. Everywhere you don't have views outside, trees outside. So this was the office we did in a glass envelope in Delhi. So what we did our best was to incorporate greenery inside. So everybody is working under a small tree. Technology is a great enabler, so that enabled us to nurture those trees, grow those trees indoor with minimal maintenance. This was a great opportunity where we had a big piece of land and we were doing this luxury villa. And then typically villas in Delhi today, they work purely on air conditioning, don't open windows, no spaces to sit outside. But here we sort of push the limits, push the client, and the clients are extremely, after initial tussles. I mean, we work in a patron-driven business, so we have to satisfy the needs of the clients, but it's also our obligation and responsibility to push the boundaries and do the best possible, even with the clients are not comfortable with that initially, but to do it in a way where we make them comfortable, make them, and give them the most optimal solutions that are possible. This is another residence which was completely landlocked. The only way we could get the sun inside was from the top. And we did that, and we again got a lot of nature inside. Again, technology enables us to maintain this moss wall, a lot of plants with minimal maintenance, because that's the thing which scares people, how do you maintain plants? It generates mosquitoes. You have ventilated spaces, we don't, So there are solutions and their solutions are very effective. With minimal maintenance, we can do all that. This is what technology enables us to do today. I mean, we can mimic sunlight, we can get great ventilation. Another office space we did where, again, the same challenges, but of course the space was different, so different kind of solutions to integrate nature, to integrate people, movements, create individual spaces where they have individual functions of the office, but still the whole office, every space is interconnected, overlooking each other, they get their privacy, they get separate zonings, a lot of lounges, a lot of meeting spaces, and this is the place where we are blessed to be working from. So we got this lovely chunk of land where we had these beautiful trees, and we built our small little studio under those trees. Every morning I get up and look forward to going there. And that's our thing of how we connect with nature. We do use technology, we do use air conditioning, but keep it to minimal because certain challenges you need to meet. But you reduce the load so much that a typical building that we do ends up consuming 30 to 40% energy of the adjoining building. So if you're saving 60-70% of operational energies, I think that's a huge achievement, and still making all the needs of a modern living, all the clients' requirements are being fulfilled and their comfort.
Okay, so what a diverse portfolio across completely different regions of the country. In a time where we're talking about AQI and temperature changes, you both are from Bombay, we're from Delhi. The challenges are not very far apart. How can one approach wellness in design and well-being simultaneously? What is the role of the designer there? Alan, can we start with you, please? Yeah, can we start with you?
Yeah, so it's a tough question. It's all about wellness. No, there's no other kind of being.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what we want to be. Like everyone wants to be happy and content in the spaces they are in. So it's a very basic thing when you kind of, I guess when we're employed or when anyone else is employed or creating a space, you're creating a space to better the space, not to make it worse. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much there. People want spaces to be good. And no matter what, your basics are very similar. You need air. That's the first thing that you do from the moment you're born till the moment you die. You need air. So air is a basic right. It should be a right. So air quality should be a basic thing. No matter how rich you are, you have bad air quality, there's no point to it. Then you need some space. You need some security. So it's on the whole, things are very basic. Design adds a little bit more to it. But yeah, I think if anything's built, it's built for the well-being of a person. Ideally.
That's the fundamental that designers should work with.
Yeah, I think it's something that's ABC, no?
Yeah. Sarika, what are your thoughts?
I agree with what Alan said, and I think light plays a real important role. I think all of us know that when you're in a gloomy weather, you feel under the sun, and you aren't kind of happy. So bringing in light wherever you are, whatever kind of neighborhood you are in, whether you're scooping from the center, whether you're able to kind of get in light from the side, you need to be in well-lit spaces. And I think it just boosts your, whether it's your cortisol level or your oxytocin. I think what is important is that light is something that you incorporate in your spaces. And I think we try to attempt to do that. And I think it's also the backstories about all of these. It's not just the well-being of the people who occupy the space, it's also the well-being of the people who have contributed in doing so. And I feel through craft, when we are kind of engaging at these larger scale craft interventions when it comes into a space, you haven't seen Gond art of that scale and size, where we were in Maharashtra, we had local arts like the Paithani and the Warli, which are inherent to Maharashtra's crafts, but it was important for us to see how compassion and empathy could be depicted through craft and for the process of healing. Now what that does is that those craftspeople who are sitting in the Gond villages of MP are able to create these life-size scaled artworks, and what that does to them. So I think it's well-being not just at the occupancy level, but it's well-being at the level that you are able to nurture the other communities around, whether it's the Potter families in the Bodh Gaya case, where we were able to empower them, and being able to let that craft happen. They are right now making matkas. Nobody is using the country tiles really. You can see all across Patna, if you're driving from Patna till Bodh Gaya, all old homes are only country tiles, but today nobody is making that because they just converted that into a ways of earthen matka. So I think it has to trickle across the communities that you're kind of building for, not just the occupants, but the others who kind of come into the picture. So yeah, so I think wellness and well-being is an act of building has to allow for that for everybody across.
And that's really the onus of the designer, you know. I mean, that's where the responsibility is on the designer, and that's where we play a role. Amit, what about you?
Well, they both have covered most of it, and so did you in your introduction. There's nothing much to add. I would just like the last thing you said, that it is the onus on the architects or the designers, and that is what I feel. So many times within the fraternity we get to hear, client wants this, so we are doing it. And that is where I say we need to push the boundaries. It is a pattern-driven business, there's no doubt about it. So we are the custodians of clients' money, his funds, and we need to give what the clients desire, undoubtedly. But clients are, if we make them aware, if we actually make them aware of the difference that they are making to the well-being of people involved in the whole ecosystem, right from people who are building, whose crafts we are using, people who are gonna occupy that space. And the clients are always willing to listen. They're always willing to learn. They are not, they expect something else because they don't know better. But once they become aware of something better, they are more than willing always to accommodate. And it's up to us about how we do about convincing them, telling them, giving them optimal solutions for the overall well-being of the whole ecosystem. And that's our role, and a lot of good work happening around us, across the globe, but unfortunately, most of the work is not so. And that needs to change.
Yeah, I would say that, while architects and designers are not doctors who are saving lives, on a daily basis, but we're doctors in the sense that we can prescribe the right medicine, and design is that medicine that we work with. So from an office where there are plants indoors, to homes that have, or there's a garden outside or a balcony where you can experience, roses and flowers, and you see sunlight coming in, to a floor that you walk on. There are experiences that design shapes. Could each of you talk about maybe one such design intervention that you think in any of your projects that added to the mental and the emotional well-being, of the people inhabiting the spaces? Alan?
So I'll talk about my mental well-being.
Yeah, sure.
So we had a site where the client wanted a big house, okay, and exactly like Amit said, you need to control these guys because he's very polite. Clients are idiots. You need to educate them like crazy. So he wanted to cut down all the trees, and we were like, no, we can't. So for my mental health being, I had to change 3 horticultures till they finally agreed that the trees would survive. We built around the trees. I was happy. Client was very happy after that, so that's okay. That's like extra points. But basically, work towards your own happiness, guys? It's like, it's okay. If you kind of satisfy your brief, then it normally ends up good for the client too. And remember that whatever you make affects not just the client or the owner or the architect, it also affects everyone around you. So the impact on society is to be seen. So what your structure does is very important. Also vis-a-vis the person who passes by on the road, or, things like that. The light and shadow stuff. So it has a larger, this thing. Yeah. So that was mine.
Sarika?
That project wasn't here, but I'll just give an example. I'm sure you guys will be able to visualize this. This is from an educational project. It's a high school, and what we did was, it's in a water-starved region where we were ensuring that the entire concept of schooling was blurring the boundary between the classrooms and the spaces that you could move outside of the classroom. And we planned it from the perspective that we had streets for play, streets for assembly, and streets for travel. And what we did was, it's a low-rise structure, and the water was kind of harvested into these stepped wells that we created in between. And what happened was, while it rained, you had the step wells completely full. It was a network of water channels that kind of finally led into another collection pond elsewhere, so that the aquifers got charged up. And when it completely dried up, these step wells became spaces like the music room came outside, so the band performed outside. And what you see as the thrill of a space like this is that students are able to engage in at 2 levels. One is to understand what concept of water conservation is, and how do you use spaces which are not defined in its literal form, as stepwells in India are known as public spaces. They were spaces for people to kind of come and have conversations. And here is where the space becomes an actual canvas or a stadium for something else to happen. The same thing when it comes to landscape coming into a school like this, and you have the whole ecosystem actually nurturing the life cycle of a butterfly. What better way to really know what the life cycle of a butterfly is by witnessing that over those 21 days from the first stage till the last stage than learning it from your biology books. I think there's no other way that we as human beings are able to imbibe knowledge by seeing, hearing, and really satiating your 5 senses. So I think that's important, to be able to do that through smaller interventions, and how design can do that just by being observant and being able to integrate it into design.
Again, I think most of it has this thing. So again, I'm going to be a little repetitive here, but I'll try to give a So everywhere, the challenge or the opportunity to connect with nature. So it's like the whole aim always is to be, you should not need to go far to be under a tree. So if it can be planted on your terrace, if it can be planted in your balcony, and to also ensure the other challenges that come with it. Like, okay, we tell a client we want to open the windows, where I think we take care of the mosquitoes. What do you do with the noise outside? We live in an urban mess. And however much may we want to change that, it's beyond our controls. So you need to, develop strategies, develop things to mitigate all these various challenges that every site offers you, and then convert them into opportunities. And we have successfully done that. Again, needs a lot of hard work in ideating those ideas, more than that to convince the client. But trust me, whenever you have a good strategy, it gets implemented and it works.
I have a more specific question for you. You've done a lot of offices, right? A lot of workspaces. Let's move to the more intangible well-being. Not the physical, but the more mental and the social and the communal well-being of a workplace. How does spatial design really, and in your experience after having done so many offices, what is the role that spatial design can play in enabling mental and social sort of well-being?
So we all, by default, we all work out of open offices now, across spectrums, across different kind of works and all that jazz. We all want to talk about, ideation spaces, team spaces. We come here, we are a tribe, we want to sit here, discuss ideas, ideate. But in reality, none of that works. We all want our comfort, individual private spaces to be able to product it. At the same time, we do want to see other people. The amount of phone calls we do, amount of, Zoom calls we do and all that. So it is challenging to create that balance between that privacy and that communal experiences. Along with, there's so much natural light that you can get in any space. How to maximize the use of that for the more common uses than for, private uses. So we have done interventions where there are 5 directors in the company, and we have actually convinced them not to have a cabin for either of them. You can work out of a meeting room. Otherwise, what do? You need a work desk. Please go and sit on one of the working stations and work from there. And all the meeting rooms are away from the windows, because that's where you want to shield yourself. You want to focus on a presentation or on a call or whatever. You don't need, if I have to sacrifice daylight, I'll do that in a meeting room rather than on a desk. Things like that. We go to restaurants and work from there today. So how cafes become important so as I said, some 10 years back, and then it was treated as a joke that I designed restaurants to work as offices, and I designed offices to work as restaurants. So that's human. Human nature doesn't change from workspace to any other things. And then there's the issue of, the convincing a client about the advantage of daylight. So I have a small little trick. I just tell them, how long can you hold your hand like this? You just keep counting. And sooner or later, they get tired. You cannot hold your hand still like this. I said, no, I can give you a weight. And I give them a weight. Now, keep doing this. That they can do much longer. You're carrying a weight, you're moving your hand, you're lifting, you're actually doing work. But you can do that longer than you can hold your hand still. So that's why I say, if your pupils are fixed to artificial light, and day in and day out you're working in that one spectrum of light, it causes huge mental fatigue. You have a flat light in a whole large workspace, and we have huge floor plates today that we are working with. It's like there is no dynamism happening, and your optic nerve tires. Short term, long term, it causes early dementia, it causes illnesses, and it tires you very fast. Your productivity every day reduces. Earlier, we had difficulty convincing clients about all this. Today, there's enough data on the net to, reel out sheets and sheets of paper. It's very important. Your employees will not fall sick if you do all this. It works. So, I think small little things, create different zones, create different spaces, have fun, and imagine yourself working out of that office. You will end up doing a good office.
Well said. Alan, a lot of urban design work, right? How can urban design and cities, the work that you do on cities and master planning, how does that prevent, especially post-COVID, we've all realized the importance of public spaces as well. How does that prevent isolation, and how can it enable mental well-being?
how does it prevent isolation? Okay, I think we'll just reframe that. It's like we spend more time, I think most of us do, spend more of our waking hours outside the house.
Outside the house, yeah.
And the city becomes our living room, our dining room, our media room. You know, you can watch a movie with your friends, you can go out, you can dine, you can meet up, stuff like that. You're working out there. So, I mean, there's a lot of parts to it, right? Your life is not just contained to a space. So the city kind of has to offer more than just the basics. It has to offer transport, infrastructure, and all, of course, but it also has to offer better stuff. So our design principles have been the same, but stretched across to the urban space. Now, this comes from the fact that the same as what he was saying very rightly, is that you design for yourself, and it comes through. You look at what you need during the day, and then you kind of apply it across the board. And then you'll start seeing patterns, and you'll start seeing things happening. No one likes to be isolated. Man is a social animal. We've come here to meet each other. I mean, that's principally why we're here. And we want to be together. So, I mean, this is something that's very important. And if the opposite of this, when you're talking about isolation, is jail. You're just basically locked up, and you're in a windowless room or with a small window, and you're kind of given all those things that make you more crazy than you are. So, I mean, the city should not become the jail. I mean, that's what it was during COVID. And they actually opened bars in Bombay before they even opened parks, which was very interesting because they said that was financially very important.
And mentally as well.
Mentally for the government, yeah.
Sarika, a lot of institutional work and a lot of cultural institutional work, right? We often underestimate the power of design of a cultural institution when it comes to well-being. What has your experience been? And how do you think what sort of design interventions help there?
I'll give another example. This is, we're building a museum in Ahmedabad for Jain heritage. And the brief was very simple: to house this repository of absolutely exquisite collection that this trust has for the last 50 years. And it ranges from the 2nd century to as late as the 19th century. And we were given a 2-acre plot with really large neem trees, 30-year-old neem trees on the site. The brief was what it was. I think what was important for us was to be able to take that brief way beyond what was asked out of it and create a public space by actually elevating the entire museum on a stilted space so that you allow for a ticket-free space. People could come and use that. The building is ready right now. We are doing the exhibition design right now, and hopefully in a year it should be open to public. And the aim is that you are able to create a cultural institution that can give back to the city, a public space that people can come and enjoy. It has a central courtyard which has a water body with the neem trees completely conserved around this area. It has a cafe space that you can kind of spill over into the stepped water body. And it's a space that's non-ticketed. So you come, of course, a museum space is a high security space, so you kind of frisk and get into the space, but you don't have to take a ticket to get into the space which is stilted and is access for anybody to come and kind of really use that space. You start using the actual galleries from level 1, which is a ticketed space. So I think what was important there was how do you shift the brief, which was a typical museum building, and really give a space back to the city, which becomes a public space for anybody and everybody to come and use. So I think it also depends on how we as professionals are able to go beyond the understanding of brief that's given to us, and what can we bring. No client is going to say, no, I don't want that stilted space. You ought to start your galleries right from the ground floor. No. We had a huge challenge in this building. It needed special permissions. It had a cap of 15 meters height. height, but we made sure that we are able to kind of fit in the repository that was required to be housed inside and still be able to give this public space. So I think it's within us to really understand what the bylaws allow for. Everything in life has a loophole. You can make an opportunity of that loophole if you really wish to. And yeah, that's what we try to do by going beyond that brief.
Very, very nice. Thank you. I almost feel like I should go back to design. Okay. On a very serious note, when we talk about well-being, it's not something that is very quantifiable. As designers also, it's very intuitive. Like Amit said, you design for yourself. Alan echoes the same thought. Are there any ways in which we have a packed hall, so I'm assuming the topic is super relevant and a lot of people want to know what are the more tangible ways in which we can quantify that we are actually designing for all aspects of well-being? There are no certifications here, right? There is no way to quantify we've saved that much energy. And I mean, I know Amit doesn't believe in certifications in the first place, and he often complains about, and I know that a lot of all of your work actually is not you're not looking to quantify it, but there's all effort and attempt being made to make sure this happens. And like Alan said, it's the ABC of design. But what are the ways in which designers can really step back and look at their own work and say, yes, we are making that effort, and the impact is also visible? I'm leaving this question to all of you, actually.
One thing is like, okay, one of the latest studies yesterday that came across, caffeine is bad for health. And it came from some European thing, as Europe survives on coffee and so do we. So firstly, this whole certification of what is healthy and what is not healthy, I think it turns on its head every few years. This oil is healthy, this oil is not healthy. Cholesterol is bad, cholesterol is good. This type of cholesterol is bad, this type of cholesterol is good. So on and so forth, it's unending. All we know is oxygen we need. There's no debate there. There's no debate there. Sunlight we need. So we belong to a tropical belt. So we come from a very earthy environment. So earthy materials are well for our being. It's like ingrained in our DNAs. So my point is simple, just stick to the basics, do the basics. It normally works the best. And then there's enough data today to back up things. I said like I said, we did not design a building to be energy efficient. We designed a building the way we felt was right. But down the line, we just did an energy analysis and the consumption was 40% of the adjoining building. And we had that data because the client was occupying that adjoining building for years before he moved into this building we designed for. So once you want to start proving points, you can. As I said, there's enough data which says people who work with daylight and all that jazz don't fall sick. Or as I said, I think, but then there's as a population globally, we are living older and older. There's still so much we don't know about our health. What we believe works does not believe in the long term, but these basics don't change. And that's like, it's not gonna change. Create spaces where you encourage people to walk up and down the stairs instead of taking a lift. There's no debate there. So things like that, create spaces which are ventilated, lighting, things like that, and enough data to prove your points. And enough data to make your spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations. This will work well for you. You will live longer and happier.
Sarika and Alan?
I'll go back to the first building that you saw, the Nirvana Films in Bangalore, and the video that you saw, the movie that you saw, that was created for us by Nirvana Films, and that was their testimonial to us in a way to say that, how we really occupy this building. And that building that year won the WAF, won the EDC, and won the Future Arc. Now, Future Arc and EDC are given to buildings which are only LEED certified and LEED rated. This was a humble little building that has, will not even fall under a category of LEED because we are non-air conditioned. So air conditioning, if you don't speak about, you don't get your points in LEED at all. It's like a whole different ball game, which makes no sense for the context that we are in. What you see there is the energy levels that people are able to be productive in a building like this. It's in a dense residential neighborhood, a corner property which is actually a a commercial building per se. Fortunate enough to have these lovely mahogany and copper pot trees, but unfortunately it's the south and the west face. And the north and the east, which is the best face, is where our neighbors are. And we had to be protective about their security and not peer into their lives with this building where the work starts at 12 a.m. Like you see, advertising companies really start working at that hour. So it was important to really try and make sure that you're able to give a building that can breathe through and allows for people to really be one with that space. And that's what human psyche is all about. If you're giving a space that you're able to nurture the senses, you will be able to be productive.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of need for people to quantify, which is what you're saying, quantify things. So that's why the certification and all these things, you don't really need to quantify things. Sometimes less is more. And very often, I mean, we can look after the physical well-being of people through spaces and create spaces that are kind of conducive towards mental health well-being, but largely it's up to the person. So it's largely up to the people. But yes, cities do affect you, and private spaces do affect you, so good design is essential.
And it is more intuitive then.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Okay. So a lot of food for thought on how to really build for wellness beyond the walls. Thank you. Okay, I think this is really a lot of fun. Thank you.